right at 2:05.
Okay.
Marty's letting some people in the room.
They're still coming in, so I'm just going to get us going. Welcome, everybody. My name is Marty Mascari. I'm with the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging. We're blessed today, once again, to have our partners with the James L. West Center. Hollie and Jamie are here to talk to us about cognitive changes to be aware of. But as we get started, I think the first thing we want to do is I want to let you guys know one thing. When you guys get off today, it's going to be look a little bit different than it's looked in the past. I have to start doing an evaluation for all of the webinars that I do. And so when you shut your system down, or when you log off the webinar, a survey will come up, should pop up for you to fill out. If you guys would please fill that out. That is different in addition to those that need to fill out the survey for the CEUs, and that survey will be emailed out to you in a follow-up email after we're done with the webinar. So that's just a little bit different than we've done in the past, but please look for that as you log off today. And so if we want to advance to the next slide, and Jamie, if you want to cover the CEUs.
Sure, happy to. And thank you for everybody being here. We are offering 1 credit for nursing, social work, and licensed professional counselors for those who attend the live program. We're also able to issue certificates of attendance if that's something that helps. So when you get the follow-up email, either this afternoon or tomorrow from Marty, there will be a link for you to click on. And we ask that everybody complete the program evaluation, whether you need CE credits or not. We really appreciate your feedback and just to evaluate our programs. But if you are seeking CE credits, you must complete the evaluation. And part of the evaluation will ask which certificate you would like, whether it's nursing, social work, or a generic attendance certificate. If you will allow us about 3 to 4 weeks to issue your certificates back to the email address that you provide, that would be great, especially now that it's the holidays. The program evaluation does close and expire on the end of the day, December 21st. So that's next Tuesday. So you have a week to complete it, but then it closes and we're not able to take any more evaluation completions for CE credits. But again, please do allow us a few weeks to get those certificates back to you in your email.
Nice. Thank you so much. And please give them the time to do that. It really is very time consuming to get those all together. And it really helps once you have everybody's evaluation done and you do them all at once, as opposed to trying to address them one at a time. That even gets more time consuming. So please be patient with them on that. And if you don't get it in the next 3 or 4 weeks, you're more than welcome to email us about that. So I guess we're ready to go, and I guess we want to. I guess we're going to turn it over to Hollie, and let Hollie educate us.
All right, thank you. We'll go over the CEU stuff again at the end. And this is our final program for the year. Can you believe it? Our final program for this year. Wow. All right, so we're going to talk about cognitive changes, what to look for and what to do. This comes up a lot at this time of year because we are together with family members that maybe we haven't seen in a while. And we're going, wow, they have really been hiding that well, or maybe mom or dad or somebody has been not telling us exactly everything that's been going on. We may also be concerned about some changes we're seeing in ourselves or in somebody else that we care about. So we're going to do a little bit on the normal versus not normal aging, then what are some other reasons we might have some memory loss that are reversible, because there are some reversible reasons we might have some memory loss. And then what are those dementias where it's not reversible? How do we get a diagnosis? And then how do we have some of those hard conversations? We're going to do all of that in 50 minutes. So we got to get going. All right, there's my information for those of you who are needing those CEs. Here's our course outline and our objectives. So we are going to talk about normal versus abnormal brain changes. We're going to recognize the causes of those changes. We're going to define dementia and its symptoms. And then we're going to go over how to receive proper diagnosis for abnormal changes we might see. So let's start with, what is the older healthy brain? And here's a picture right here of an older healthy brain. An older healthy brain should still weigh 3 pounds. All of our brains should still weigh 3 pounds, but we're going to slow down. You're going to hear me say this several times. There should be no memory loss. We want it, whenever we are seeing some memory loss in our loved ones, we want it to be age-related memory loss, but there's not any age-related memory loss. I know there are commercials that come on TV. I know there's a commercial that comes on every single night before one of our favorite game shows that comes on at 6:30 here in Texas, that's trying to sell you some vitamins, and says age-related memory loss, but there's not age-related memory loss. There's age-related slowing down, and we're going to talk about what happens as with age. There shouldn't be memory loss. So we should still have that right at that 3-pound brain. Communication starts to slow down because blood flow may be reduced, because maybe we don't have that blood flow getting up there to the brain quite like it used to. And we may even have some shrinkage, we may have some inflammation, and we might not even hold the same working memory. But again, we just slow down. It's completely normal for us to go, okay, give me just a minute. I do this all the time. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, it's that, and I may describe it, it's the, hold on a minute. It's that game with, and I can describe the game to you, but I can't, okay, what's the name of it? And then it'll come to me, or it might not, and it comes to me later. That's normal. That's normal. Why did I come in this room? That's normal. Where are my glasses? Where are my keys? Where's my phone? All of that is normal. Slower response to sensory stimulation. That's normal. We're going to talk more about that. But research actually shows us that we should be able to take a group of college students and give them memory and learning tests. We should be able to take a group of people in their 80s who do not have dementia, and give them that same memory and learning test, and they should make the same score. It's going to take the people in their 80s a longer time to finish the test. We just slow down. It's going to take us longer. Let's think about what's going on with that brain. It's complex. It's got many specialized parts. We don't even stop to think about, because everything happens just automatically. It's got 2 halves. You can see right there. Cerebral hemispheres. It's got the outer layer, the cerebral cortex. All of this is going to be very, very important as we start getting into the abnormal and the changes and what's happening. You've heard the gray matter. So think about the gray matter. What's going on with the gray matter? You just heard me talk about the sensory information, the slower response to sensory information. So what is that sensory information? Those things that we see, we hear, tactile, what we taste, what we smell. But something else is going on in that cerebral cortex. That also controls movement. It regulates functions such as our thinking and our learning and our remembering. Here's another picture of a healthy brain. A healthy older brain is extremely resourceful. Think about, why is that? In fact, the older we get, the more resourceful we get. It's that wisdom. It's life experience. Our comprehension and our general knowledge actually improves the older we get. Look what else improves here. Being able to read a person's emotions and make better decisions improves as we get older. we can start, we talked about this in my Bible study last night. We start to take some of the emotion out of making decisions as we get older. We can start to make better decisions. We can pick up on other people's emotions. We know that even in dementia, and we'll talk about it in just a little bit, that amygdala in the brain is going to stay intact throughout the course of the disease. And in a healthy brain, that amygdala is most definitely intact. And we read other people's emotions well. And the older we get, the better we get. In that older, healthy brain, that plastic brain, we're better able to adapt to new challenges and tasks. We might not like it, but we can do it. Because think about, we're in our 40s, we're in our 50s, we're in our 60s. How many different things have we had to adapt? Now look what we can add. A pandemic, and we're getting through it. We've been able to adapt. We've learned how to. Each decade goes by, each year goes by. And then that cognitive reserve, the brain's ability to work well, even when some part of it is disrupted. So let's look at a few quick brain facts. I said there, weighs about 3 pounds. Now look at this picture here. There's a normal brain on the left, that's a 3-pound brain. And I just put there beside it a person who died from Alzheimer's disease. That's a 1-pound brain. So when we get to the point that we're talking about dementias, you can see what's happening with the dementia. The brain's dying. So there's a 3-pound brain compared to a 1-pound brain. Look at all that information there on the brain. The core component of the nervous system in general, and the brain in particular, think about that term you hear so much, is the neuron or the nerve cell. And you'll hear us lots of times call it the brain cell, brain cells. And when we're teaching, we use that term a lot. But think about what a neuron is. It's transmitting information. Look what's happening to that brain of somebody that has dementia. Now, if those are dying, how in the world are we going to expect the person on the right to act like the person on the left? Now, here's something else interesting about neurons. They don't divide. And when they die off, they're not replaced by new ones. Now, these numbers are staggering. The average human brain has about 100 billion neurons or nerve cells. And each neuron may be connected to up to 10,000 other neurons passing signals to each other. So when their loved one is showing signs of dementia or any type of memory issues, and they'll go, well, it's like they'll have it at one moment and then they don't have it, or they have it in the morning, they don't have it. Think about how long this takes. Dementia doesn't just happen overnight. 100 billion neurons. So it takes a while. Dementia is a disease that goes on for years. Takes a while for that 3-pound brain to get down to that size, that 1-pound size. So let's talk a little bit about that normal aging versus abnormal aging and some cognitive changes that if we're seeing them in ourselves or in our loved ones, we need to be concerned about. Or is it just normal aging? There's some things that are going to happen as we age. Many of us may look in the mirror every single day and start going, oh, or my hair color, or oh, it's starting to, maybe I don't have as much as I used to have. Things change. Vision changes. That's normal to have vision change. Hearing changes. We're not as strong as we used to be. Our stamina most definitely changes. We may forget names. We may forget names of people that we new, and it's not that they're gone, but we have to be reminded of them. It's not a complete memory loss, but we're not placing the name. Numbers, we might not be able to commit that number to memory like we could maybe when we were younger. Or maybe recalling, where did I put that? I just bought it. Where did I put that? That's normal. That's okay. And it's slow and it's subtle and it's just a decline. It's a normal decline. So let's look at some things that are considered normal aging. With new information, it may take us longer to register new information. Now, most of us have these things called cell phones, and when it doesn't update, I don't know about any of you, but it takes me a while to figure out these updates. And I'm in my 50s, and it makes me mad, but I can learn the new information, but it takes me a while to learn the new information. And I know what time of day is going to be best for me to learn that new information. It's not good for me to open the phone at 7 a.m. and try to figure out new information. For me, that's not good. I'm much better with new information at 7 p.m. than I am at 7 a.m. because I'm an evening and afternoon person. For other people, it may be morning. So as we get older, we figure out what time of day is best for us. That's all normal. I'm going to register new information better later in the day. Normal aging, we're going to catch ourselves having memory slips, but then we can provide that detail regarding the memory slip. Let me tell you what I did, and we can tell the story to somebody about when we forgot something. That's normal memory slip. We don't get lost in familiar places, but we may have to stop and go, wait a minute, which way do I go here? That's normal. Okay, this is one of my favorites. Again, just being in my 50s. Able to operate common devices, even if unwilling to learn how to operate new devices. Here we go with the phone again, or a new remote on a new TV, or a new electronic device. We can do it. We may just not want to learn how to do it. Something new on the computer. I got an Apple Watch and made my husband take it back because I didn't want to mess with it. It's not that I couldn't figure it out. I didn't want to mess with it. I didn't want to learn how to figure it out. So that's normal aging. Abnormal aging would be you can't learn how to figure it out. And we'll look at that in a minute. Social skills. Social skills maintains prior level of social skills. That's normal aging. And then recent memory for important events, affairs, conversations, not impaired. A little bit more on normal aging. I have this conversation an awful lot with people who are concerned about their own memory loss. If you seem to be more concerned about it than other people are, it's probably normal aging. If you're more concerned about it than other people are, it's probably normal aging. A faint decline in finding words, that again is that, okay, hold on, what's it called? Give me just a minute. And you can probably describe the word you're looking for. Able to register and learn new information. I've got that one highlighted. Multitasking becomes more difficult. This is normal. This is normal aging. When we were younger, we were able to, I'm cooking a meal, I've got a baby on my hip, I'm on the phone, I'm paying attention to the TV, and I'm thinking about, and we're doing all of them, and we just can't multitask as well anymore. Remembering the detail starts to decline, our learning style tends to change, and it's harder to adjust to change. Look at that last one. Ability to reason and make sense out of information does not decline. So we are still able to be reasonable and rational, because that's going to be something that we see when we start looking at dementia, because that's up here in this frontal part of the brain. They can't be reasonable and rational. But that's not something that we should lose. Normal aging, we should still be able to be reasonable and rational. Now, somebody may just be cantankerous, but we can still be reasonable and rational. Now let's switch and talk about some abnormal aging. This is the most important thing, that top line, underline in bold. If it is forgetfulness that disrupts daily life, if it's something that is disrupting daily life that wasn't there before, not being able to keep track of the day type of thing, and this wasn't happening before, something's going on, and we'll talk about why it might be happening, and it might be something reversible. We'll talk about those. So they may complain about forgetfulness, but they're unable to recall the instance. Where with normal, let me tell you what I did. I completely forgot that and I tell you the story of me forgetting something. But abnormal aging, they may even complain about the forgetfulness, but they can't give you the details of it. And sometimes they're complaining about the forgetfulness because someone else is telling them they're being forgetful. Well, my husband says I forget all the time, but I don't think I do, because they can't tell you the details because they forgot the details. Getting lost in familiar territory, taking hours to get home, getting lost on those familiar trips to and from the grocery store, to and from McDonald's, to and from Brahms. And here's another big one, underlined there, bold print. Unable to learn how to operate new, simple devices. Can't learn it. Not that they won't, but that they can't learn it. And they're becoming less able to operate common devices. Now, this may be the microwave. This may be the remote. This may be the phone. Having that loss of interest in social activities, in other words, they're starting to withdraw. They may be starting to have some socially inappropriate behaviors. Doing and saying things they've never done before, that is not a normal part of aging. Because I'll hear people say, oh, he's just getting old. He's being an old man. She's just being an old woman. No, socially inappropriate, that is not a normal part of getting older. Stopping in the middle of a conversation and not being able to retrace. That's not a normal part of aging. Now, we may be in the middle of a conversation and I get distracted and have to go, what were we talking about? And as soon as I get back on track, I'm good to go. But somebody with abnormal aging may get off track and never get, even if you brought it back up, they wouldn't be able to follow you again. Some more on abnormal aging. So the opposite of what we saw in normal aging. So in normal aging, we said the person seems to notice it more than anybody else. But on abnormal aging, family member and friends are much more concerned about the instances of memory loss than the person themselves is. They think everybody else is seeing something that there's nothing going on. Having that frequent trouble with word finding, maybe substitutions, pauses, or even repeating themselves, repeating questions, or repeating words, not being able to retrace steps when they lose something, where you or I should be able to go, okay, where did I have my glasses? Okay, I had them when I was in let me go back there. Not being able to retrace. Forgetting to do familiar activities, forgetting how to do familiar activities. Forgetting an entire event or occasion. Personality changes. making poor decisions, and decreased judgment. And let me add this. If something just doesn't feel right, we need to address it, and sooner rather than later. Don't put it off because it's going to be a hard talk. We're going to talk about that at the end of this, how to start those hard conversations. Don't put this off because it might be something that's reversible. Why would you put it off? If it doesn't feel right, we need to address it. So here are some causes. These are some things that can actually cause some confusion and even cause some memory loss. And keep in mind also, this, like I said, these are things, a lot of these are things that we can treat, like infections and immune disorders. If somebody has an infection and is getting sick to the point that they're about to become septic, they can most definitely act confused. And then let's look at things like health conditions that affect blood flow to the brain. Anything that's affecting blood flow to the brain can make a person confused. They're not getting oxygenated blood to the brain. Now, each of these can eventually turn into a vascular dementia. Heart conditions like stroke, the coronary artery disease, tumors, blood clots, COPD, diabetes, and breathing issues. All of these can become vascular dementia. All of those also we can treat. We can get in and we can do something about them. And a lot of them are preventable. And we're going to talk about things that we can do for healthy brain aging so that hopefully we never even get there. But anything that is restricting blood flow to the brain can cause confusion. Other things that can cause confusion are metabolic problems, nutritional deficiencies, poor eating habits, somebody who is malnourished, even somebody who's overweight. Thyroid conditions, liver and kidney problems can cause a person to have some memory issues. So imagine if somebody is having some memory issues and we get them in there and we get a complete blood workup done and it's their thyroid. And that's completely treatable. And we get them on some thyroid medication and that clears up. And those memory issues go away because it isn't a dementia. It's just a symptom of a thyroid condition. We want to get in there and get that treated. Hypoglycemia. Somebody who has hypoglycemia can be very confused. Somebody who has too little or too much sodium or calcium can show signs of memory loss. B12 is another one. A person who has an impaired ability to absorb B12 can be very confused. Any type of medication interactions. And again, when we get to how do we get the diagnosis, we'll talk about these. That's why we always start at a primary care physician and get blood work done. Medication interactions can cause memory loss and confusion, but it's reversible. Lifestyle choices of using drugs, alcohol, and smoking, because smoking is where we have restricted blood flow to the brain. Depression and anxiety. There is now research that shows that lifelong depression can lead to vascular dementia. Depression, 100% of the time, is treatable. 80% of the time, it's curable. But 100% of the time, it's treatable. And it doesn't always have to be with an antidepressant. There's all kinds of things that can be done about depression. We need to be treating it. Unmanaged stress and eye and hearing problems can also show up as confusion. A person who has had exposure to heavy metals such as lead, or even pesticides can have a lot of confusion or even memory loss. And a person who has abused alcohol, recreational drugs, or even who is overusing prescription medication will have memory loss and confusion, keeping in mind that there is an alcohol-induced dementia that is not reversible. So let's look at kind of a dementia umbrella. So the number one question that we get asked in the education department here at the West Center is, what is the difference in Alzheimer's and dementia? We hear the word Alzheimer's, we hear the word dementia. What's the difference? Alzheimer's is the most common type or form of dementia. And you see this graphic here where dementia is an umbrella term. Dementia is an umbrella term, like cancer is an umbrella term. Somebody says my loved one has cancer, we would then say what kind or type of cancer. Someone says my loved one has dementia, we would say what kind or type of dementia. There's about 130 different kinds or types of dementia. About 70% of all dementias is Alzheimer's disease. So that's why you typically hear about Alzheimer's, because it's the most common type. But you see there Lewy body dementia, vascular dementia. You heard me talk about frontotemporal dementia. There's a Parkinson's disease dementia, 130 different types of dementias. So what's going on with a dementia? So a dementia, progressive neurological disorder that's actually causing the brain to shrink. And you saw that picture we looked at earlier. And if you're just coming on, you're getting copies of all these slides. It's causing the brain cells to die. So we're going from a 3-pound brain to a 1-pound brain. It's a continuous decline in thinking, behavior changes, social skill changes, and the person eventually is not going to be able to function independently at all on their own. It is going to get worse over time, and it is terminal. These are some of the things that are included with dementia. And there's about 35, 36 common symptoms, and it's not just memory issues. So many times people think the word dementia and memory loss go hand in hand, and it's so much more than memory loss. Being able to be reasonable and rational, having good judgment, losing our language. A person who has dementia is eventually going to lose their language skills, the ability to walk, the ability to care for themselves, to feed themselves, to take care of their own personal needs. Because the neurons that we talked about, all those neurons in the brain, they're dying. And eventually, those neurons that tell the heart to beat and the lungs to breathe and the body to metabolize food, they're all going to stop working. Let's look at these 10 signs that your loved one may have Alzheimer's disease. So we talked about normal aging and abnormal aging. So here are 10 things that we look for that somebody may actually be leaning more towards a dementia. So I always encourage people to keep a notebook. If you think you're getting ready to have to go to the doctor, you're going to see a family member over the holiday, go in, don't just go in saying, hey, I think I'm seeing these things. Write these things down so that when you have that 10 minutes with that doctor, 15 minutes, whatever you've got, you can say, hey, I was in this class and I realized my mom or dad or husband or wife has been doing this, 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 and this, and I understand these are signs of dementia. These are the top 10 things that we look for. And some of those, you notice, were on our list for that abnormal aging. And you'll see on there problems with language. We mentioned that, being able to perform the familiar task. But look down there at the bottom, we didn't mention this one, trouble with images and spatial relationships. And you see how it's a red light, but he's seeing the green light. I had a resident before she moved in, she was still driving and she would stop at the stop light, look both ways and go because she was treating stop lights as stop signs. Reasonable, rational judgment. She didn't have it anymore. She was still living alone at home. Withdrawal from work, withdrawal from social, being able to keep track of things. And again, you're going to have copies of all of this. Let's look at these latest statistics. So we think it's not going to affect us until it lands right at our door. Again, 60 to 80% of cases, so we usually say about 70%, sixth leading cause of death in the United States. And then look at this, it's the only cause of death in the top 10 in the United States that cannot be prevented, cured, or slowed. There is no treatment. The only treatments we have are for these symptoms. We do know there's ways, proven ways to reduce our risk of developing dementia. We're going to look at those. 1 in 3 seniors dies with Alzheimer's or another dementia. There's about 5 million Americans that have Alzheimer's right now. And our silver tsunami has not yet hit. It's about to. And that is when our baby boomers are all over the age of 65, but that is going to be happening within just the next few years. Almost 2/3 of people who have dementia are women. Here are some of the other types of dementia. We mentioned again, dementia is the umbrella term, about 130 different types of dementia underneath that. We do tend to see 5 to 8 of the dementias over and over again, Alzheimer's being the most common. Vascular dementia, exactly what it sounds like. Vascular dementia is anything having to do with that cardiovascular system. Most common is lack of blood to the brain caused by a stroke. But think of all the many things, and we saw these earlier in this, high blood pressure, cholesterol, smoking, diabetes, anything that has to do with impaired blood flow to the brain. There's a frontotemporal dementia, Lewy body, Parkinson's, and a mixed dementia is when a person has more than one. So they may have Alzheimer's dementia and vascular dementia. That frontotemporal dementia there, just briefly, it primarily affects the frontal and the temporal lobes of the brain. And so they have a lot of personality and behavior issues. Those portions of the brain tend to shrink or atrophy quicker than the other areas of the brain do. And so they do tend to have more of the personality and challenging behaviors. And then the dementia with Lewy bodies looks a lot like Parkinson's. In fact, these folks many times will get misdiagnosed as Parkinson's early as in the disease. They will have a lot of fluctuations in alertness. They will be very, very drowsy. They may be lethargic, and they have a lot of hallucinations. And so they have a lot of motor symptoms where, again, they may present as somebody who has Parkinson's. And speaking of Parkinson's, we did say Parkinson's disease dementia. The latest statistic on Parkinson's disease dementia is that about 70% of all those who have Parkinson's will eventually have what's called PDD, Parkinson's disease dementia. And then again, that mixed dementia is where a person has more than one dementia at a time. The most common is Alzheimer's disease with vascular dementia. So how do we go about getting a diagnosis? So if we're with our loved ones over the holidays and we're seeing some changes, how do we get a diagnosis? The first thing we want to do is get to our primary care physician, and we want to rule out. All of this is a ruling out process. But we can also get to do some comprehensive testing with a geriatrician, neurologist, neuropsychologist, a team of specialists. They're going to do a thorough family history, as much as you've got. So go in with this information so you don't have to come back. Go in with this information, gather as much information as you can. A mental status test, physical, neurological exam, extensive blood work, because they're going to rule out all of that other stuff. We want to rule everything out. And then they may do brain scans, may do MRI, they may do a CAT scan or a PET scan. They may do those. So we get asked, why would we go and find out about this if there's not a cure? What would be our reason for finding out if there's not a cure? Well, there's all kinds of reasons that we want to find out about it. It gives us an opportunity to make some decisions. I've sat across from way too many people who didn't talk. And then we're to the point where their loved one can't have the talk and they're having to make all the decisions themselves, and they don't know what their loved one's wishes would have been. And they're having to make them all. Their living options, their financial decisions, their legal matters. What would they want end of life to look like? And it is hard. You have to have those talks. Putting it off doesn't make the disease go away. That's called denial. It gives time to create a relationship with doctors. It gives time to get in with care partners. It gives time for the family and the person who gets diagnosed to start working through acceptance, to get a support team in place. And there is nothing like having a support team in place. And then to really start focusing on what's important. To make some lifestyle choices that really help manage the symptoms and to help with the progression of the disease. These are those influencers on brain health, and this is the only slide where we're going to talk about this just because of time. These are the things that we know we can do now. These are the things that we can do that we should always be doing, that are proven, that we know influence our brain health. And it is a plant-based diet. There is actually a diet called the MIND diet, MIND, M-I-N-D. It is a combination of the Mediterranean-based diet and the DASH diet. So you can look that up, the MIND diet. It's a plant-based diet. Exercise, of course, oxygenated blood to the brain, making sure we're getting good quality sleep, managing our stress. I know that is easier said than done, but finding ways to do it, staying socially connected, and then brain fitness, so cognitive fitness. Now, let's get to this part. We want to make sure we get to this part. What if we're afraid to have the talk? This can be not only with our loved one, but it can also be with our family. What if I'm seeing it because I'm the loved one who lives here and I'm worried about even bringing this up with the other family members? And I just tried to write it completely out on these bullet points so that if you're the one getting ready to have the talk, you're going to have this right here in front of you so that you know it is completely normal for you to be afraid to do this. You may feel like you're the only one having to go through this. And the very first thing that's going to come up is denial. And you may be afraid that your loved one's going to get mad or that they're going to get really depressed. And it is much easier to pretend that this is just normal aging because we want it to be normal aging. But if you're saying that and you're seeing memory loss, that's denial. And what you're doing is you're protecting yourself, and you think you're protecting yourself and you think you're protecting that person that you're caring for. But what this means is it's time to have the talk. And you're actually doing them a disservice if you say to them things like, oh, we all forget from time to time. We've got to sit down and be able to have the talk and say things like, tell me more about what's going on. I know you're scared. I'm scared too. What does it feel like when you let them cry, let them yell, let them say the words they need to say? without us getting defensive. They're the one going through it. We've got to kind of, for the moment, pull our emotion out of it and help them walk through it so that we can get this diagnosis, because they may be insisting there's absolutely nothing wrong. And denial for them is a way to cope. It's a way for us to cope too. But if you can get them one-on-one and ask them about their concerns, especially if you can kind of get them off to an area where it's just the two of you, and it may not be you. You may not be the one to have the talk. You may be the one that's too close. Sometimes it's the person that's the next removed, where it's not the daughter, it's the granddaughter that they'll talk to, because it needs to be the next removed, if that makes sense. Ask them if they're seeing any changes. Ask them if there's someone they'd rather talk to. Use the words like, "Are you scared?" And let them cry. You cry with them. And tell them you're going to be there with them on the course of this diagnosis, regardless of what you find out. But here's the big, 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 do not make any promises that you're not going to be able to keep, like, "I will never put you in a facility." Don't do that to yourself. None of us want to think that we might ever have to put our loved one in a facility. But then you end up in my class called "But I Made a Promise," because we all want to make that promise. You can say things like, "We'll do the best we can through this. We're going to do our very best to stay home. We're going to do our best." And you will do your best. What if they're having a negative reaction? Why would somebody have a negative reaction to this? Anger's the easiest emotion to have, and anger, typically at the root of everybody's anger, whether we're talking about this or whatever we're talking about, 9 times out of 10, at the root of anger is fear. And this is usually really early. They know something's going on. I'm still trying to be in control. You don't know what you're talking about anyway. And they get mad. Now, this is where you've got to stand back and again, try to take the emotion out of it and think about, try to stand in their shoes. What if this was somebody coming up to you? They're vulnerable. They may be feeling alone. We've got to try to stay back and be respectful. And again, share worries. Do lots of reassurance. Help them with decisions and being their voice and enlisting help. Because even though we may think it's us that's going to be that person that they want to talk to, sometimes we're too close and we've got to go to that next removed. That helps a lot. Sometimes it's not the daughter or the son that they'll go ahead and even go to the appointment with. Sometimes it ends up being the church member, or it ends up being it's that next removed person that doesn't have that emotional. I know we need to be there. I want to be there, but that's my mom. That's my dad. I'm the power of attorney. But right here in the beginning, as we're just getting started, if the neighbor's the one who can get them to get to the doctor, let the neighbor take them to the doctor. Let's get them in the door. If you're the power of attorney, if you're the medical power of attorney, you can get those doctor's records. You can call and talk to the doctor later. But first, let's get them in the door. The other thing we can do is we can make it about us. Don't make it about them. I'm really concerned about. And finally, and those of you who have worked in the field or who have been down this road before know that we, in memory care, in dementia care, we use those therapeutic stories. Sometimes we call them lies. Sometimes we call them fiblets. And sometimes we just flat have to say something like, I have an appointment today. I'm going to the doctor. I'd like for you to come with me. We called the doctor ahead of time. They know we're coming. They know why we're coming. And it's for them. And we're going to get some ice cream on the way there, and we're going to get some ice cream on the way back, and we're going to do everything we can to get there. And we're going to find a good support group to be in throughout the course of this. And we're going to learn some coping skills for ourselves. Because once there is a dementia diagnosis, there's not just one patient, there's definitely two. Be looking for these things as you're with your family. Being able to talk about it honestly. We've put some resources on here for you. This first one right here, the Conversation Project, if you have never gone to this website, I really, really highly recommend this. Go to this website. It is just that. It's called the Conversation Project. It actually has some things you can print off, and it's how to start lots of different talks. It's also how to talk to children. There's things in there about how to talk to children. It also has some in Spanish. So that is a great place to go. There's the Alzheimer's Association is on there as well. You can go onto their website and you can type in just about any subject you could think about. They also have an 800 number you can call 24 hours a day and get a real person who is, I used to be one of those people that you would get, and they can talk you through things. There's our website. There's the Area Agency on Aging. And I've also put on their UNT Health Science Center, which is here in Fort Worth. Here's our information. And then here's our CEU information that I'm going to have Jamie pop back on and go over, and then we'll do some questions. Jamie, if you want to go back over the CEUs real quick.
Happy to. So you will receive a follow-up email either this afternoon or tomorrow with a link to an evaluation. We do ask everybody to complete the program evaluation because we appreciate your feedback. But if you're seeking CE credits for nursing, social work, licensed counselors, or would like a generic attendance certificate, please complete that evaluation. The link closes on next Tuesday, December the 21st. And then if you will allow about 4 weeks from today for us to get you those certificates you're requesting in your email. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. And there is a question. I'm going to read this one out loud. My mother's speaking to people that are not around. She wakes in the middle of the night, roaming to different rooms, turning on lights, laughing and talking to people that are not a parent. I've reached out to her doctor. She's combative when I suggest help coming into the house. I'm thinking she may not be getting enough oxygen as she snores when she sleeps. I've reached out to her doctor. Any insight or advice? Absolutely reaching out to the doctor. If she is having a lot of snoring, she may very well have sleep apnea. Now, the chances of her keeping on a CPAP machine are slim to none. She's probably not going to want to do that. But so if she is roaming around, waking in the middle of the night, roaming around, turning on the lights, laughing, and she's not afraid, then that's okay. I mean, it may be bothering you, it may be keeping you up, but anytime somebody is, if they're having hallucinations, and that's part of those 35, 36 common things, if they're not afraid of the hallucinations, either visual or auditory, that's part of the disease. And usually we don't intervene. They're all right. Now, if she's combative when you suggest help coming into the house, sometimes you get help in the house because they're not actually there to help her. They're there to help you. They're there for a Bible study. They're there for there's all kinds of reasons people have to come over to the house, and they don't have anything to do with her. I used to go in people's houses all the time. We always use the Bible study story. You can come up with whatever story it is. And before long, I'd be visiting and talking, and I'd do a complete assessment on a person, and I was there for a Bible study with you get pretty creative. So but you never call them, they're here to help you. They're here to help us. Don't even use the word help. They're here to, you can make them be whatever it needs to be, but most definitely you need to get to the doctor, it sounds like. And if she's up at night, they may need to do something to help her sleep right now. Let me make sure I can get over here to
I'm going to answer Deborah's phone. Well, I mean, her note here about the CEUs. The CEUs will be given out once you fill out the presentation. The survey. The survey will be emailed to you, but you'll be asked in the survey where to send the CEUs to.
Let me see. So she's not afraid. She's a fall risk. Would a sleep aid not be a problem? Lots of times what they'll do is they'll start with melatonin, and they'll start with like a 1 milligram melatonin is what they'll start with. It's what I've seen them start with. If she's completely flipped her days and nights, many times is what they'll do. They'll start with a melatonin, and then they'll try to start getting helping you figure out things to do during the day to keep her very, very busy in the day so she will sleep in the night if she's flipped days and nights. So great. Let me see if we got anything else in here. Oh, we are right at 3. Our information is on here. If you have any other questions, you can always email me or email Jamie or even Marty. He can always get the information to us, and we would be happy to answer any questions. I've even had people give us a call, and we can do that as well.
Let me add a couple of things if I could. First of all, if you're joining us by phone, I want to remind you, if you're joining us by telephone, please make sure you send me an email if you're looking for CEUs. My email is marty@ntads.net. I'll put it again in the chat here in just a second. But I need to have a name and an email address to correlate with a phone number in order to get you credit for having attended. So if you'll please do that. If you're like, again, I've seen a few people have already emailed me. I don't know how many of you are joining us on the phone, but if you are, once again, please send that to us. The other thing is I'm going to send some links to some other presentations we have in January. One of them is preparing for cognitive incapacity, why it's important, and nightmares you risk by not doing it. We've got that on the 27th. We're still working on our on what our topic's going to be with this partnership, and we'll get that to you in a few days as soon as we get that all worked out. Anything else you guys have? Jamie, no? Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate it greatly. Hold on. If somebody just raised their hand, we need you to ask a question in the chat,
I answer. It said resource list again, and the resource list will be in. It's in the slideshow that you're getting if you hadn't already got it.
Yeah, if you haven't already downloaded it from the chat, it will also be in the follow-up email as well.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all so much for joining us, and y'all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.